Hi, everybody, and welcome to our VertiGIS Studio Search Product Showcase. Fast, suggestions-based experience on Esri Map services. I'm joined by Lucas Ober, our solutions specialist. Today, he will be doing the demonstration. So today we're looking at VertiGIS Studio Search. The reason we're doing this presentation is really there's some lack of understanding around search and what it does. Looking at the slides and the work that Lucas has done creating a demonstration, it's quite amazing how quickly you can actually set this up in your environment for amazing search results. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of introductions focusing on VertiGIS Studio as well as the Esri platform. As you may know, we're very connected to the Esri platform. Esri is a platinum business partner, and our go-to-market strategy is 100% exclusive Esri technology. There has been a transition from GeoCortex to VertiGIS Studio Search. As a result, there are some things that you maybe should know about as you start utilizing search or thinking about it. Now we'll take a look at why VertiGIS Studio Search. We'll look at a demonstration, and then we'll have a bit of a wrap-up. We do have a poll question that I want to get into next. The question is, are you currently using VertiGIS Studio Search? So with that, I'm just going to start the poll. It looks like we've got everyone almost has responded. We'll just close the poll now. It looks like there's slightly more people that are not using it than are using it. So I think it's very valid for everybody that is here. Thanks for answering that question. We will have a few more poll questions throughout the presentation, just so that we're, understanding where you're coming from a little better, and maybe we can meet those needs better. Okay, so moving forward. As I mentioned a little earlier, there has been a transition from GeoCortex Essentials to VertiGIS Studio. As you may know, Essentials was a rich, all-in-one viewer framework. We think of it as our classic technology. We will support it for many years going forward. However, there definitely is a push for you to consider using search within the VertiGIS Studio brand, primarily because of the deprecation of the JavaScript 3.x API. A little bit about VertiGIS solutions, including Studio. Studio, as I mentioned earlier, sits on top of ArcGIS. We think of it as a horizontal solution that fits many verticals, similarly to VertiGIS FM and VertiGIS Networks, which is a bit smaller product, very smaller kind of footprint, focusing on utilities and telecom primarily. We've been with Esri for a long time, 23 years, with working with our ArcIMS, the WebADF, Silverlight, Flex, and many of you probably remember those days. And now, going through the GeoCortex Essentials, and now to Studio. So there's been a lot of changes over the years. Our main focus is really giving you technology that can handle those changes. And one of those changes, again, the big change is really going from the JavaScript 3.x API to the 4.x API. We rewrote search from the ground up to meet those requirements. And we'll get into that a little bit later with Lucas's slides. So where does VertiGIS Studio fit? Well, we think it fits really around the sophisticated custom solutions. That said, search is something that can be used in Experience Builder. And Lucas will show that. So I think it's really, getting more value for your money, right? Deploying it to all of your Experience Builder applications and then to all your VertiGIS Studio applications to make it kind of a consistent search experience that's far superior to anything that you may have currently. But again, if you spend a lot of money on another search technology, then maybe we're on par. We hope that we're better, but you'll be the judge. So proven solutions for government agencies, parcel reporting, asset management. You are the experts here. You know these various components that make up your GIS. You're trying to create technology or create excellent, wonderful experiences for your end users. These are some areas that I'm sure if you're in a government agency, that you're thinking about or you have already created. Search just adds to that. Proven solutions within utilities, engineering, and AEC and energy. Offline editing, work order integration, leak detection, etc. Search just helps with that, really narrowing or focusing, refining what's sent back to the end user so they can get on with their day without going through endless results. Really, it's all about getting results quickly and as necessary. So I wanted to just briefly look at this slide. I mean, you've probably seen it before. Instant search was something that was in GeoCortex. My understanding, it was a little slow for some experiences, and I think that a lot of people tried it. They didn't use it. Search is far superior, faster, more robust, and it does a lot more things. I also wanted to bring this slide up showing you that we are investing in search. It is a 1.x product, but as you see that we are currently at 1.12 and 1.13 should be released in August. So we do have a roadmap for this product, and we will share that with you through the in case you missed an email as those changes happen. I really love this slide because it kind of communicates how we work with Esri, and that's a big question everybody's got. How do you work with Esri? Well, I mean, we look at the Esri portals. That's so important. Everybody is either on ArcGIS Online or Enterprise or both, right? So we understand that that's where our technology fits. We look at things in terms of the portals. That's a really big important component, as well as the viewer frameworks. Whether you're using, app builders or our technology, web and mobile, our technology of these frameworks are part of the ecosystem, the Esri ecosystem that you have. And so when you create an app using one of these frameworks, you then would take a technology, a capability like search, for example, or workflow or printing or reporting. When you create your template or your search template, I guess, it's saved as an item within Portal. There's no integration. It's just part of it. It's native to Portal. So that makes it easier to access all the GIS resources that are part of your portal. The items, the web maps, the scenes, they're merged into the app, which is then shared with the viewers, contributors, and field workers. We do have a couple of different layers, or I guess, I think they're administrative tools, access control, where you're looking at permissions, and then analytics, similar to Esri's Monitor product. However, I think that product came out of professional services, so it's more like for architectural review, where analytics may be more slated towards day-to-day usage. But again, that may vary and change over time. My knowledge is a little dated, and I'm sure there will be a lot of explanations as far as what's going forward with that technology at the user conference next week. So with that, I'm going to let Lucas take over and show you a few slides and then get into the demonstrations, the reason you're all here. With that, Lucas, do you want to take over?
Perfect. Thanks, Peter. So let's start by talking about what VertiGIS Studio Search is, and then we'll dive into some differentiation between Studio Search and what you're currently allowed to have with Studio Web, and then we'll dive into the demo. So Studio Search is a GIS search engine that allows administrators to create lightning-fast searches and configurable results. It also allows you to quickly create indexes on enterprise data. So what Peter was talking about, we connect to your portal and the map services on that. And then it also allows you to optionally dive into advanced settings to customize the search results for your end users. Now, diving into differentiation a little bit, really the only other option you have besides Studio Search within the Studio environment is the default Esri standard search. And this is the type of searching that you get out of the box with VertiGIS Studio Web. So when you go to Studio Web and you open up a template, by default, it's configured with the standard search. And really all this means is that we're using Esri's searching capabilities to run the search bar in your application. And so standard search allows you to search across map layers and as well as the world geocoder for ArcGIS. And that's the same thing with Studio Search. We can also do that, but that's really where the similarities end. So both of these products can search across map layers and the geocoder. But going back to standard search on the left, really where it starts to differentiate is standard search has a slower performance. And the reason for that is if we go back to the right, looking at number 2 in the Studio Search box. In comparison, Studio Search has faster search performance, even with large data sets. So think thousands, tens of thousands of records, hundreds of thousands, even millions. And this is all through indexing. So if you're unfamiliar with that concept, I encourage you to look that up. It's essentially it's just a process that allows you to run the index service on your layers, and it makes it just more efficient to search across. So you get that fast performance there. Esri Standard Search also lacks configuration capabilities. So if you've noticed with Studio Web, you go to the search bar, you go to the settings, there actually isn't any configuration capabilities available to administrators. So they can't change if they want to add wildcards or if they want to make things a little bit more, intuitive for searching, change the search operators, so on and so forth. And we'll take a look at what all of those things mean in a second here. But going back to the right here, Studio Search has extensive options. And really just to dive into that briefly, Studio Search has fuzzy matching, and we'll talk about this in a minute. But it also is able to return synonyms. So that's really important and increases the usability of your search bar as well as your applications in general. It returns alternate spelling and partial string results. So in other words, autocomplete. And then with that autocomplete functionality, you have advanced configurations that you can fine tune that. There's also scheduled indexing, which we'll touch on that in a minute here. And then the indexing service itself is quick to run. So if we're talking about tens of thousands of records, typically it only takes a few seconds, usually less than 10 seconds. And it doesn't actually bring down the map service that you're indexing. And the last point here is that you can extend your VertiGIS Studio workflows with Studio Search. So a lot of the times, our users create workflows to search across tax parcels or other layers on their map. And you can actually use Studio Search as the search engine that powers these workflows to make your searches that much faster. So with that, let's jump into a demo here. What I'm going to do here is just show you an application with Esri Standard Search. And then we'll take a look at what this looks like, what's available to you out of the box with Studio Web. And then we'll take a look at how you can improve upon your searching capabilities with Studio Search. And then we'll take a look at how I built that Studio Search configuration, and we can dive into some of the settings. So I'm in my application. I have Esri Standard Search set up here. The intention behind this application here is that the GIS administrator who created it created a public app that allows their users to search across the tax parcels data set on the map, in addition to all the other layers. But really the intention was, let's have our users search for owner names and find tax parcels. And so out of the box with Esri Standard Search, if I wanted to search for tax parcels that John Smith owns, right away here I can see that, okay, Standard Search is searching across the geocoder for ArcGIS. I see some search history here. I'm just going to hit enter, and we're going to see what Esri Standard Search returns for us. You can see that I have some work orders, just one work order here, 50 tax parcels, which is interesting, that's a lot, 50 trees, so it looks like we're reaching our cap of 50 results per layer, and 50 permits and 9 geocoder results. So this is a lot of information. This is 160 records returned. I actually doubt that most of this has John Smith in the attributes here. Let's just do a quick test. I'm just going to pick a random tax parcel here. And let's see here, first owner name, that's what we wanted to search across. it looks like it found the first name John, but it didn't find the last name Smith. So what it's doing is it's kind of searching for John, anything that comes up with John or Smith. So that's not very intuitive. That's not what we want. And it gives us way more results than is actually usable. Like, we wouldn't want to make this public and have, a search bar and have all these results available. It just makes it confusing, right? And so let's move over to another application here. This application has VertiGIS Studio Search configured for it. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to search for John Smith here. And right away, I can see that I have a search configuration for tax parcels. So I can see within the tax parcel layer, what owners correspond with the name exactly John Smith here. I can see I have John and Brenda Smith, Peggy and John Smith. That's what we want to see. We also see that the geocoder, we can turn this off as well if that's confusing, right? Because this is pulling up stuff from Ontario and Oklahoma, so we can turn this off. But as we can see here, this is what we want, right? Just those two results. We could dive into it, get to the data that we need in a fraction of the time, right? With the previous application, you probably would be clicking around multiple times trying to find where John Smith lives. But in this case, we can find it, within just a few seconds here. All right. So the question remains: how did I set this up? How did we get, how did we get this set up so that, it shows the tax parcels layer and the owner name in my search suggestions? How did I do this? So for that, I'm going to move over to the VertiGIS Studio Web Designer interface. And we're going to go to the map configuration. And we're going to dig down to find our tax parcel layer configuration. So let me go into the proper services. And there we go. So this is my tax parcel layer configuration. And the first thing that I'm going to do here is go under field extensions. And I can see currently all of these fields are searchable, which isn't really what we want here. We just want to search by the owner name. We don't care about the parcel ID or the building unit number. We don't want the public to search for that and come up with incorrect search results. So let's go ahead and turn all of these off, except the owner name. So let's go down here. Let's make this one searchable, hit apply, and then let's scroll down. And let's navigate down to this section here. And here we can see that we're currently using the standard Esri search. We go to this dropdown and select VertiGIS Studio Search. Right away, what we're seeing is it's loading here, but essentially the index is being created in the background, and we'll see the status here. It'll update. We refresh this. It'll show us, okay, perfect. So it shows that it's been created, and we can actually open this search configuration within VertiGIS Studio Search. So let's go ahead and sign in with our ArcGIS credentials. Perfect. And let's just do a brief tour of what we're looking at here. So the top left here, I can see that, all right, for my tax parcels, the search index has been created at this date and time. It took 8 seconds, and we indexed about 58,000 records. Okay, so that's great. Only took a few seconds to do that. And reindexing options, this is really important. So I want to draw your attention to this section here. If we go to settings, we can see 2 sections. So the first section is reindex deltas only. So this is really important. If you have a data set that is constantly being edited, it could be, in terms of like utilities, if you have like distribution lines or service connections that are constantly being changed and moved around, and attributes are being updated for repairs and whatnot. Oftentimes, you will have a date field within your layer. So you might have like a created by user field as well. So who actually made the modifications? When did it happen? And if you have that date field, you can select it. We don't have one in this case. But whenever that date field changes, or if there's a new date field that comes up, a new record in that field, that record will be indexed, and only that record. So we can see that it took 8 seconds for the entire data set to reindex. If we just wanted to reindex the deltas, so only the records that changed, it would take a fraction of the time, right? Maybe a second, or 1 or 2 seconds, or maybe even less than that. Now, going to the full reindex options with data integrity, all this means, and we can look at the question mark here to give us an explanation, but all this means is that Studio Search checks the structure of the data, and it checks to see if anything changed. So in general, if you added a new record, if an attribute changed, if anything with the data changed at all, we're just going to run a full reindex at these dates and times to make sure that your users are searching the latest data. So that's data integrity. You could also do a schedule-based full reindex. So for every day, you could do it at a certain time. You could do it at midnight. And then so that there's not a lot of downtime. But again, it doesn't take down your actual map service, so that stays up. It's just the searching capabilities. So those are your reindexing options, your scheduling options, super important stuff. And I highly encourage you to play around with this and check it out. Okay, so let's move down to the search fields section here. So this is just showing the fields that are included in the index. So we've already toggled the owner name in Studio Web, so we don't have to change anything here. This is looking good. But I want to draw your attention to the default settings. So within the search suggestion dropdown, it's currently showing owner name. So this is fine. If we go to our search, and I'll just highlight this here. But yeah, so it's showing our owner name. And this is fine. If we wanted to make it a little bit more intuitive, I'll show you how to do that here. So what if we wanted to add the address of each of these owners in addition to the owner name within the search suggestions, just to make it a little bit more intuitive, give our users a little bit more context. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. So within the search suggestions, I will go to this plus button, and from here I can see all of the fields that I can add into this search suggestion. And so I'm going to search for address. Go address here. Choose that one. And then in addition to the address, let's also add the city and the state. There we go. And what I'm going to do here is just add a couple separators to just improve the view here, make it a little bit more legible. And I'm just going to hit save. So Control S will save this configuration. And then we can see right away that our search index is out of date. And what this means is that you'll have to reindex and refresh your search index and let that run before your users will be able to see the results that you've made here. And so before we check out our results in a second, just want to dive into the app configuration and just show you a little bit more about the settings that are available within Studio Search. So within the app configuration, we see our Studio Web app, and then all of the search configurations that we have will be listed down here. So we only have one for tax parcels, but a lot of the times our users will have multiple different searches for different layers. We have a couple basic settings here. This is our default result size. So if we go back to our app and search for John Smith, we can see that we have 2 results, but all the default result size is saying is that it'll give us up to 15 results if there are 15 hits for John Smith, right? So pretty intuitive there. And then the other basic setting is languages. So you can change the language that the search result is returned in. There are also advanced app settings, and we'll take a look at this in just a second here. But what I'm going to do is just test our search configuration that we just saved. And I'm just going to refresh the status just to check, make sure that everything is good. It looks like it is good. So let me go ahead and search for John Smith. And right away, what we can see is the owner name has been appended to the address here. We have the address, city, and state. So that's fantastic. Really what we saw here was that, just within a matter of minutes, we were able to configure search results and index all 58,000 tax parcel records, and really just make our application a little bit easier to use compared to the default. So really improving that user experience and making sure that you're receiving less complaints about your application. So let's take a look at the advanced app settings. I talked about that there's lots of different configuration capabilities. We talked about fuzzy searching, and so let's talk about this. Let's start with search, the search operator here. So the search operator specifies how searches behave when multiple terms are entered. And so currently we have the AND search operator selected. This just means that it returns the results that include all the search terms. So if we search for John Smith, it'll return all the tax parcels with the owner name, including both of those terms. So that's what we want. It's more intuitive, right? Esri Standard Search uses the OR search operator. In some cases, you might want to use that, but for the most for most cases, I think it's most intuitive to have the AND operator, just because it gives you less results. And if someone really wanted to search for John or Smith, they could just type in the OR search operator in there, and it'll override that. Okay, so fuzzy search mode. This finds results that closely match your search term. So even if it's misspelled or slightly different, it'll still return something for that. So currently, you can see there we have 2 edits allowed. We actually don't have it turned on here, but if I had 2 edits allowed in the fuzzy search mode on, it'll basically allow me to have 2 changes right within my search string. So if we look at the bottom here of this text bubble, John Smith, if I have the O removed and the I removed, it'll still return John Smith in the search results. So similarly with the 1 edit allowed, if I have 1 letter missing, it'll still return the John Smith, the actual result that we want. So just another way of improving usability. It's really interesting the combinations that you can use between all of these app settings to make your application a better experience for your end users. So, and then this last mode here, search mode. So this is kind of what I just touched on, but it's basically, it just determines how the search modes are executed. So simple will basically just stop at the first matching search mode, and it'll return its results only. So, let's say if we have fuzzy searching on and we have, the wildcard search mode, which we'll touch on that in a second here. But if we have both of those on, it'll stop at the fuzzy search if, we get the result that we want right away. Combined, it'll just use all of the search results or search methods, and it'll kind of create a search result that uses all of those methods. Okay, and then return highlighting is basically it highlights the search inputs within the search results string. So if we search for John Smith and the search result was John and Becky Smith, it'll highlight the John and the Smith part. So again, just another way of making your application a little bit more usable. All right, and then the last thing I want to mention here is that you can extend your VertiGIS Studio workflows with VertiGIS Studio Search. So I touched on this briefly at the beginning of the presentation, but a lot of our users, they create workflows like you can see on the left-hand side here for searching tax parcels or other layers on the map. And they just use the default, query tools that are available within workflow, or they just use, the Esri standard search as the backend or a geocoder. And VertiGIS Studio Search is just another option that you have in your tool belt. And so with search, as we saw, there's tons of different capabilities for configurations, for settings to improve the search results. And so you have that capability within workflow. Really, just to make the connection between Studio Search and the workflow, all you need is a couple configurations, and we have within our downloads page, there's a hyperlink there that you can navigate to. But within that, there is a workflow JSON file that you can import into your workflow designer, and that'll give you the building blocks to be able to integrate Studio Search with your workflows. So that wraps up my portion of the presentation. Hopefully this presentation provided a little bit of context on what VertiGIS Studio Search is, what the capabilities are, and when you would want to use them. Next up, we have a quick poll here. Can you see the value of VertiGIS Studio Search over Esri's standard, vanilla search, the searching that you get out of the box with Studio Web? And it looks like most people can see the value. That's great to see. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. I think we can all see that Studio Search has a multitude of capabilities. And then how likely are you to add VertiGIS Studio Search to your applications? Looks like most people are at least open to it. Actually, most people are super likely here. Let's go ahead and share this. So perfect.
Okay, that's not too surprising. It is really a nice product. Many of you have it. If you are a customer of VertiGIS Studio, chances are you may have this in your licensing. So that's something I'd recommend that you talk to your account manager or your representative if you're coming in from Europe or some other place. And they can figure out whether or not it's part of your licensing package. We do have a question. Okay, so the first thing, thank you, Lucas. I want to just share with you a couple things before we go to the questions and give you some answers, is that we do have a As a next step, we do our bi-monthly, Road Ahead webinar, open to registration. And you can also, at your convenience, look at previous recordings. Okay, so tech tips. We do tech tips almost on a monthly basis. We post them to the YouTube as well as to Vimeo. And we do have some original tech tip videos, which are still very valid in most cases. So within the documentation center, the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a out of the way hidden tech tip videos. If you launch that, and if you're in the documentation center and you're looking at a specific product, you can get those older videos, which are free. They are a little dated, but most of them are valid, especially that VertiGIS Studio Search is only VertiGIS Studio Search, right? So it may be worth taking a look at to get some more information. So with that, the first question was for the scheduled full reindexing, when a time is specified, which time zone is that? Is that server time or another kind of time?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually. I don't know 100% off the top of my head. I would assume that it's the server time, but I will make a note and double check that for you.
Okay. So the next question would be, what causes search index status to get set to missing?
I'm not sure. I don't know if I've seen that before. Maybe if you have an example of that, I'd be open to hearing about that a little bit more. But I can make a note and check with the product team about that. We just had a release in June, I believe. And I think I recall hearing about some sort of bug fix about maybe something around like missing status, but don't quote me on that one. I think I'll check with the product team.
So the next question that we have is there a tutorial on configuring the Studio Search workflow? That'd be a great technical tip if it isn't already done, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think we have a tutorial. And, I'm part of the tech tips team. And yeah, I could bring that up to our team meetings, and we can certainly get a video up and running for that. That shouldn't be too difficult at all.
Okay, and I think we got a few more questions. Wow, this is a lot of questions. We don't usually have this many questions, so we are excited and happy, of course, to answer your questions. So it looks like the final question is there an explanation for the wildcard and like options?
Oh, right. Wildcard is basically so you can use the asterisk functionality. So let's see if I'm still sharing my screen. So that's kind of like, if you turn that setting on, then your users will be able to search using the asterisk like this. So like anything that starts with John, so like Jonathan or Johnson, that will be returned as well. And then you could do that similarly with like, if I typed in like bat with the asterisks at the beginning too, this last name, Anna Bathula, that would be returned. And then, batch elder would be returned as well. So that's the wildcard search. The like search method, I believe, is just, I'd have to double check, but the last time I checked was that the like search just uses this end asterisk. So like if I search for bat, turning that on, the like search will simply just add that asterisk in the background. So it'll kind of just assume that. That's my understanding, but I will just double check with the product team on like specifically.
Excellent. Thank you. On to the next question. Is that answered full enough? We will get back to that answer for you in more detail. So the next question would be, do you have to set the unique identifier field in the resource configuration?
Yeah, that's a good question. So back in here and going to text parcels, it's not required. So I haven't had to set this up. I believe for like more advanced configurations, you have to set it up. I haven't had to with any of my search configurations that I've done. It's saying that it's necessary when the underlying technical IDs change, when the actual content of the feature stay constant. Honestly, I'm not sure what that means, so I'll check with the product team to
We
check on that.
Okay, thank you, Luca. I think that we do have a frequently asked questions document, and I think we probably need to update that with these answers as well. So we'll work with the products team and the marketing team to kind of update that frequently asked documents. But I definitely think these questions are excellent. We still have an additional 15 minutes, and there are a few more questions, and we do appreciate your time and your questions. So, Lucas, does search work in Experience Builder?
Yeah. So search works in Experience Builder. I touched on how your workflows can be integrated with Studio Search, and that's actually the method by which you can use search within Experience Builder. So within Experience Builder, the order of operations is that you add the workflow widget, and the workflow widget acts as the UI, like the user interface, and then you create your form with workflow, and the back end is actually search, and that workflow that I showed shows that. So this workflow here, that'll help you connect to Experience Builder.
So they can download that at our community site. Oh, there you've
Yeah.
got the article. We'll also try to share with you the slides. We can share the slides with you really quickly, but the frequently asked questions document does need to be updated based on what we're learning today. There's a lot of great questions here. Another question that we have, Lucas, is how long does it take to install and configure the basics of search?
Yeah, that's
Get that
a
question?
good question. I mean, we basically just went through, a basic configuration, and as we can see, I kind of talked a lot and explained a lot of things here. But if I stayed quiet and kind of just did this, right, we could. I mean, obviously, we did this within a few minutes. So that's super important. Like, you don't need to do any custom coding to create an index to make your searches faster. It's really just,
Plug and play.
installing. It's plug and play. You install search, you get it running, you connect it, and then you basically turn on the button, the drop down, the Esri standard search to Studio Search, creates the index, and you just modify a few settings, and you're off.
Lucas, this seems to be too easy. It seems like an easy win for many agencies
Yeah.
that are looking for fast searching and advanced searching. If you've got it already, you may already have it as a SaaS product, for example. Actually, that's a good question. How does technical or does search come as a SaaS? I'm always
Yeah,
confused about that.
it does.
So
It
it's
does actually.
totally available as a SaaS, and many customers have access to our SaaS offering. So that's something. And how long would it take to use that with a SaaS product as opposed to on premises? Is it kind of the same
It's
kind of thing?
Yeah, it's pretty much the same, except with SaaS, you don't have to install anything, right?
Oh,
So
so it's
it's
even
actually
faster.
faster. It's faster. Yeah.
Although, what about firewalls and all that? I mean, that was my own question, like firewall certificate, all of that. I guess that's like kind of more technical or technical support questions.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe more support lane. But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
think
true for sure.
SaaS is generally just faster to get up and running. If there's like security concerns and like server infrastructure involved, that's maybe when we have to have a more in-depth
Well, that
conversation.
does
But
that does bring up another question that we do
yeah,
have. Can you use two or more fields to configure the search? Can you use two or more fields to configure the search?
yeah, certainly. So it's super common. Obviously for this presentation, we kept it really simple and just did one field, but you could have multiple fields, and that just makes it even more intuitive for your users to search across your layers, right? Because sometimes, your users, if we're talking about tax parcels here, you don't want to always limit them to just the owner name. Maybe you want to search by address. Maybe you want to search by parcel ID, right? So there's multiple fields that you could enable within the same search configuration.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. We do have another question. It really deals with technical support. Does technical support provide answers to search questions?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, they do. Um, and it's fully supported. So feel free to send in your questions on that. Highly encourage you. If you
Okay.
haven't already,
Yeah.
play around with search and, you know, play
Yeah.
around with it,
I,
test the limits,
I
and ask
yeah,
search.
they were search. Our technical support is really good, so they'll be able to answer your questions very rapidly. Excellent. And then there's one more question that we do have. Can search support millions of features quickly? I
Hmm.
guess that's to do with how quick search can handle really big data sets.
Yeah, so search is intended, the whole purpose of Studio Search is to index, hundreds of thousands to millions of records, right? The whole, you know, the reason why search exists is because the out of the box tools, the Esri standard search, cannot search across millions of records in an efficient manner. And so you need some sort of process, some sort of way to do that, because it is a very common thing that we have these layers, that we have these features, hundreds of thousands, whatever it is, could be inspections, could be, you know, utilities. It's tons of data, and Studio Search
Sure.
is just created for
Um,
that.
yeah, everyone's kind of expecting Google like lightning speed, awesome searches everywhere. And I know sometimes they come to, your app or, an Esri vanilla app and it's like, oh goodness, got to spend a couple minutes or a while looking for the right answer. So hopefully this product and technology can help you with making your studio or experience sites better, faster, and more efficient. So that looks like it's our last question, Lucas. Was there any final leaveaways or takeaways that you have right now?
Not besides just going out and playing around with it. I think it's a pretty easy product to get set up and running, as we saw today. Reference the recording. We'll get back to your questions. And if you're at the Esri User Conference, feel free to say hi, have a chat. We're at booth, I think 1019. Is that right? Yeah, we're one of the big booths, anyways, close to the entrance. So
Excellent.
yeah, come say hi.
So with that, I'd like to thank you for attending this product showcase. The next one will be in September. I think we're looking at either reporting or printing. Those are kind of the top two we haven't done yet. So that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, but we will kind of look at, user feedback and see what maybe the next one should be. So again, thank you for this opportunity to present to you our technology, and we hope you have a great day, morning, or afternoon, whenever you watch this presentation. Thanks. Have a great
Thanks,
day.
everyone. Take care. Bye.